music lovers and music learners, I'm so glad to be doing this series. It's been good for me to review a lot of teaching things. I haven't taught theory in the classroom for quite a while. And the sequence, I think I was a little bit out of sequence last week, but today is going to make up for it and I think fill in some gaps. So here we are. The one thing that most people all learn about or hear about are the scales. We live in a system of music called diatonic, and that means it's made up of sets of tones, major, second, and minor second. That's the same as whole step and half step. That's where diatonic comes from. We have one major scale and one minor scale with two variations, and that's other than the modes, which is more of an early medieval and early Renaissance usage of the scales, and modern music, 20th century music or jazz music, the modes are used in that context, but basically we live in major and minor. So that's what we're going to learn today. And if you lived in Iran, for example, or India, you would have upwards of 40 different scales to learn. And they don't refer to them as scales, they refer to them as modes. That's an interchangeable term. But we have two, and it's much easier. And theirs are also quarter tone and microtone, and they're very much more complex. And you wouldn't be learning the basics in a 10-minute, 15-minute lesson. So in a way, this is really good because I think it's very straightforward, and I think you're going to get it. You've done your work on your intervals, you've done your work on your lines and spaces, you know where to work around a staff, but we're going to start without a staff today. We're going to start with the first scale that most people learn, and that's in the key of C. And the reason for that is the key signature, which tells the number of sharps or flats that each scale uses, is absent in the key of C. The reason is because it fulfills the pattern as necessary. A scale is a series of notes. They're always in alphabetical order. And they have to have a defined intervallic relationship. For the major scale, it has half steps between, 3 and 4, 7 and 8. All the other intervals, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, and so on, are whole steps. So let's right off the bat, let's start left at C. C to D is a whole step. So we don't have to make any correction in this scale. C to D is a whole step. We're looking for half steps at 3 and 4, 7 and 8. D to E is a whole step. E to F, there's our half step. And does it fall between 3 and 4 naturally? Yes, it does. C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to 5 needs to be a whole step. 5 to 6, a whole step. 6 to 7, a whole step, it is. And there we find our second half step between 7 and 8. And for that reason, because the half steps fall naturally in the sequential order of this nomenclature of keyboard, which dates to about the 12th century, which I didn't know it that long ago. This keyboard was defined to fit this diatonic system. So let's go to, I'm not going to go in the alphabetical, in the order of keys yet. Let's just pick an oddball key, like an F. Let's write our alphabet. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So we have to determine that the half steps are between the 3rd and 4th notes and the 7th and 8th notes. That will never change in a major scale. Major, by the way. Okay, F to G, 1 to 2 needs to be a whole step. It is. G to A needs to be a whole step. 3 to 4, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 needs to be a half step, but it's not. It's a whole step. A to B is a whole step. So do you remember how you make the distance from A to B smaller? You flat the upper note. So we've corrected this distance A to B, a major second to a minor second, and it's correct now. In so doing, moving left to right, we've corrected the distance, the half step between B and C, because we've made this flat, and that corrects the interval here. So here's our fifth. 5th to 6th is a whole step. 6 to 7 is a whole step. 7 to 8 needs to be a half step, and it is. So our key signature here is 1 flat. And at this point, I'm going to come up and write it here. The F major scale can be written 2 ways. F to G, whole step, whole step. This is now a whole step. We've got to flat this, make it a half step. B flat to C is a whole, C to D is a whole, D to E, E to F falls naturally. So we can write our F major scale like this, F, G, A, B flat as an accidental, or we can write it with a key signature, F, G, A, and because the flat is written here, it applies to this B. So key signature defines on the page, on the music staff, what sharps or flats to play for your scale. If I want to write the key of F, I flat this B here. If I want to write in a treble clef, I flat the line 3B. Let's start on D. And we're going to end up writing a D major scale. We're going to start on D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So right off the bat, you know there's going to be a key signature in the key of D, and most of you probably, many of you, I won't say most, many of you might already be familiar with the key signatures. We need to have a half step between 3 and 4, 7 and 8. So D to E, it's a whole step. E to F is a half step. It doesn't belong between 2 and 3. So we have to raise the F to F sharp. In so doing, we've corrected the whole step between F sharp and G by making this a half step, and there's our half step. G to A is a whole, A to B is a whole, B to C is a half step. It doesn't belong here, it belongs here, so we have to raise the C to a C sharp. This is a D major scale. The key signature, nope, that's not where it belongs. For the key of D is a sharp on line 5 and a sharp on space 3. If these were here, I wouldn't need these. But without these, and you want to write a D scale, you have to have the sharps. So the next thing, and the last thing we're going to do, and we're not going to spend a lot of time with minor scales, but you do need to know that every major key has a relative minor key that uses the same exact notes. Here's our D major. The minor scale is based upon the 6th note. It starts on B. We're going to come to bass clef. B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, because of this, G, A, B. This is called B minor. It's also called natural minor. There are two variations on the minor, but the one that uses exactly the same notes as its relative major is B natural minor. So where are the half steps in the natural minor scale? Let's check them out. B to C sharp, whole step. C sharp to D is a half step. D to E is a whole, E to F sharp is whole, F sharp to G is a half step, G to A to B, both whole steps. So our B minor scale has the half steps, not between 3 and 4, 7 and 8, but between 2 and 3, and again 5 and 6. Same exact half steps, 3, 4, 7, and 8. Same exact notes. So there's your minor scale, your natural minor scale. Two forms of minor scales. I'm going to tell you, you have this on your worksheet, and I'm going to talk about it just a little bit here now. In the harmonic minor scale, we raise the seventh. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How do we raise a note? We sharp it. So there's our harmonic minor. Sorry. Kids always love to play this scale. It's very exotic. And look at this. G to A sharp. That's a second, but that's an augmented second. It will always be a second because it's a space to a line. It's a G to an A. Alphabetically, they have to be true. But it's an augmented second because it's 3 half steps. There's our minor second, major second. Major becomes larger by augmented. And you'll have that on your worksheet this week. One more minor scale, and that is melodic, in which case the sixth is also raised, but only ascending. When it comes down, it's natural. So we'll spend most of our time talking about the major scales and the chords in the major keys. We can talk about minor scales if you want to talk to me individually or in a Zoom call when if we get past the things we need to talk about for everyone, we can get into greater detail for minor scales. But for right now, I think we're going to focus on our major. So try to write some scales, try to figure out their patterns. Start with the white notes first, F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. We'll get into the notes that are named for the black keys, C sharp, E flat, F sharp, G sharp, B flat. So that's it for today. Thank you. See you next time.